Have you ever stopped to think about sound as a building material? Seriously, it's this incredible, invisible force that's constantly shaping the world we live in. I mean, it affects everything, from how we talk to each other to how a room makes us feel. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really look at how sound works as our world's unseen architect.
And it all really boils down to this one simple question. We all know the difference, right? You hear a beautiful piece of music, and then you hear a garbage truck outside. They're totally different. But what's actually going on there? What is the real physical difference between music and noise?
Well, the answer, it turns out, is a really beautiful distinction between two fundamental forces, order and chaos. And this isn't just, a matter of opinion or taste. It's a core principle that's literally baked into the physics of sound.
And hey, this idea is not new at all. Way back in 1863, the physicist Hermann von Helmholtz pretty much nailed it. He said that music, what he calls a musical tone, comes from regular, repeating patterns. He called it periodic motion. And noise? Well, that's the opposite. It's the result of irregular, chaotic, or non-periodic motion. Simple as that.
So what does that actually look like? Well, here you go. On the left, you've got a musical tone. See how it has that predictable, repeating waveform? It's organized. But on the right, that's noise, just a jumbled mess of energy with no pattern you can pick out. It's basically the physical difference between a perfect wave and a chaotic scribble.
Okay, so we've got these patterns, these periodic motions, but how do they actually get from, say, a guitar string to our ears? To get that, we need to zoom in and look at the physical blueprint of sound itself.
And here's the first thing you really have to get. Sound isn't a thing that's flying through the air. It's more like a disturbance, a vibration. The best way to think about it is like a domino effect, but with air molecules just passing energy along in a chain reaction. And this is where it gets really interesting. Unlike a wave in the ocean that goes up and down, a sound wave is what's called a longitudinal wave. The perfect analogy is a slinky. You push one end and you see the coil gets squeezed together, and that squeeze travels down the slinky. That's exactly how sound works. It's just a series of compressions and expansions of air particles.
So naturally, we can measure these waves. The first big property is called wavelength, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the actual physical distance from the peak of one of those compressions to the peak of the very next one. It's literally the size of the wave out there in the real world.
And building right on top of that, we have frequency. So imagine you stood perfectly still and just counted how many of those wave peaks pass by you every single second. That number, that's the frequency. And here's the absolute magic of it all. Our brains interpret that purely physical measurement as pitch. A high frequency, with lots of waves per second, is what we hear as a high note. A low frequency is a low note. It's amazing.
Okay, but here's the thing. These waves don't just travel through a perfect, empty void. The second they enter a space, like your living room, that space talks back. It shapes and it colors the sound. In fact, every single room has its own unique acoustic signature.
And this is such a powerful idea to wrap your head around. The walls, the ceiling, your couch, that bookshelf, they all interact with those sound waves. The room isn't just a passive container for the sound, it becomes an active part of the instrument you're hearing.
So a room can mess with sound in a bunch of different ways. We're going to focus on a few of the most common ones that you've definitely heard before, even if you didn't know what they were called. That booming bass from room resonance, the weird metallic ring of flutter echo, and the lingering sound of reverberation.
You know how sometimes you're listening to a song and just one specific bass note seems to jump out and sound way louder than everything else? Yup, that's room resonance. It happens when the physical wavelength of a bass note just so happens to fit perfectly between two walls, and it creates this standing wave that just amplifies itself. It's super common.
And then there's flutter echo. This one's easy to find. Next time you're in an empty hallway with two parallel walls, just give a single sharp clap. You might hear this weird metallic zinging sound right after. That's the sound wave bouncing back and forth, so fast that your brain stops hearing individual echoes and just hears it as one weird ringing tone.
All of these reflections, they really matter. Something like reverberation, which is just how long a sound lingers in a space, can totally destroy clarity. Think about it. If the sound from one syllable hangs around for too long, it just blurs right into the next one. In a really echoey room, it can be almost impossible to tell the difference between words like cat, cab, and cap.
But here's the good news. We are not just victims of these weird acoustic effects. We've actually gotten really good at controlling them, at harnessing these waves for our own purposes, whether that's for making speech clearer or for getting creative with music.
And we basically do this in two ways.
First, we learn to tame the chaos. We use acoustic tools like bass traps to literally soak up that booming, resonant energy in a room. But second, and this is the really cool part, we can build entirely new worlds of organized sound, using the physics of these waves to create the building blocks of music itself.
This is just one of my favorite facts. It turns out that when a single string vibrates, it doesn't just make one note. It actually produces a whole series of quieter, naturally occurring overtones. This is called the harmonic series. And the mathematical relationships between those overtones, well, they're the foundation of almost all Western music.
Just look at this. This is incredible. This shows how these simple mathematical ratios, hidden inside a single sound, correspond directly to the musical intervals we all know and recognize. A ratio of 6:5 gives us a minor third. An 8:5 ratio creates a minor sixth. It's wild. It just proves that music isn't just art. It's built on a foundation of pure, beautiful physics.
So if we take this a step further, beyond just the physics of a single room or a single guitar string, what does all this mean for how we experience the world? It really suggests that maybe we should start paying a lot more attention to the soundscapes that we're living in every day.
I absolutely love this quote from the theorist Jacques Attali. For hundreds of years, our culture has put sight on a pedestal as the best way of knowing things. But what Attali argues is that we've missed something huge. The world isn't just something to be looked at, it's something to be heard.
And that forces us to ask a really deep question. If we start taking our sonic environment seriously, what does it actually mean to live in an auditory culture? How does the act of hearing shape our society, our relationships, and even our sense of who we are?
And this breaks it down so well. Our eyes tend to create distance, right? We look at things from afar. But sound is immersive. It washes over you. It surrounds you. It creates this sense of immediate contact. You can close your eyes, but you can't close your ears. Sound gets inside.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Our cities, our homes, our technology, they are overwhelmingly designed for the eye. But what if that changed? What if we started designing for the ear? What would our world sound like? And more importantly, what would it feel like if we treated sound not as an accident, but as the primary architect of our experience?